Competency 4. The ESL teacher understands how to promote a student's language, communicative language development in English. What that means is basically oral proficiency. The descriptors for this competency include knowing the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills and the ELPS, the English Language Proficiency Standards, as they relate to the listening and speaking strands. And there are listening and speaking strands in the ELAR text and the SLAR text, I believe, which are being revised. And it's very important in language development for these skills to be practiced and developed. And also they are tested, of course, on our annual TELPAS, Texas English Language Proficiency Assessment System, in the spring. Understands the role of the linguistic environment and conversational support in second language development, and provides opportunities. This is key. Allowing students time to talk and to listen in a variety of situations. Applies the knowledge of those practices, resources, and materials to promote competence in both listening and speaking. Understands the interrelatedness of listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and uses strategies to help develop oral language proficiency, and then applies the knowledge of those skills to help students transfer from their native language, or their L1, first language, to the second language, which in this case is English. Then applying knowledge about individual differences for students and how to provide appropriate feedback. So we will look at these descriptors. At every grade level, the teachers are required to teach the text, the content instruction on grade level, and utilize the ELPS to help them increase proficiency in language, both academic and basic communicative skills, with these students. So that is what we are tasked with. Using the ELPS are organized by cross-curricular student expectations, and those are in section C of the ELPS. There's a link to the ELPS here in the PowerPoint, but also in the materials that are in the course. There's a handout, and you can click on that. And section C talks about the different skills or the student expectations that fall under both listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And so that is where you would find the types of skills and the types of things that you need to work on with your students. And then it also helps you accommodate your instruction based on what proficiency level those students are in those domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And that you will see in section D of the ELPS. Those are the proficiency level descriptors, but you also have those in the course. So those tell you what to expect for students in those domains. So for example, in section C, there are specific student expectations for listening for students. And then in section D, there's a chart, a PLD, a proficiency level descriptor that, actually, I'm sorry, it's not a chart, it's narrative in the ELPS that tells you what can you expect from, say, a beginning ELL in listening. What can you expect from an intermediate ELL in listening, and so forth. And so that helps teachers align their instruction with the actual needs of that student in that domain at that proficiency level. So effective instruction does this, and it integrates listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And if you think about it, all of our activities do this. We can't really speak without listening because we're usually responding. We also, in a writing assignment, typically have to be able to read. So these opportunities are interchangeable, but we have to be kind of intentional about making these opportunities very integrated for these students. So providing opportunities to use oral language may include doing a paired reading or group projects, having class discussions, or even brainstorming. So oral language develops in stages like anything else, and so listening and speaking actually generally develops before reading and writing in the second language. That's not to say that we delay teaching reading and writing, but it's just the natural development of things. And we talked about some of this in the language acquisition competency. Language can be receptive or productive or expressive. And what that means is our receptive skills, we're receiving information. That would be listening and reading. When we're in the productive skills or domains, that would be speaking or writing. And then you're producing or expressing information. That's an important concept. Oral language also progresses in stages, just like anything else, from, say, a beginner to an intermediate, advanced, and advanced high. But in theory and research, we hear terms such as pre-production, speech emergence, intermediate fluency, and advanced. Okay? Our TELPOS and our ELPS refer to these as beginning, intermediate, advanced, and advanced high. But in the actual research world, you would hear these terms. Pre-production is almost like the silent phase, where you are not producing expressive language. Speech emergence is maybe when you're providing a one, maybe two-word answer. Intermediate fluency is as you progress into being able to respond in phrases or sentences. And advanced would be comparable to any student able to respond in connected forms. So this is a basic expectation that you might look at for your students. So in the pre-production or silent period, you can expect students to nod, point, physically demonstrate, categorize objects or pictures. In early production, as I said before, they may respond with a one or two word response. And then in speech emergence, you have your phrases, and intermediate fluency, or even advanced, is the longer sentences with fewer grammatical errors. Now, this is not to say that we don't encourage students to go beyond where they are. We do. We have high expectations, and we want to encourage students to try, of course, speaking more and providing more information. So here are some listening comprehensive activities, audiobooks or books on tape, DVDs, jazz chants, the teacher reading aloud. A lot of students really enjoy that. I enjoy books on tape myself. But when the teacher reads aloud, that helps the student be able to comprehend. Using visuals assist with that, of course. Maybe even having the teacher read aloud while the student has the text in front of them. Using music, songs, readers' theaters, games, and TPR, which we call total physical response. You may see that on the test, and that's an activity where you tell students to do something physical and they respond. And it's a good way to judge their listening, or not maybe judge, but assess whether their listening comprehension is accurate. One of the things that you might try as a teacher in your strategies is to slow your speech rate, to speak clearly, to paraphrase, to repeat key vocabulary in context, and summarizing. You want to also be checking for comprehension, of course, all along the way, and limit your use of idioms and slang. That's not to say don't use them or don't explain them as you come across them in readings and materials, but that's very difficult for ELLs. We want them to learn them, but in the early stages, sometimes they're just more confusing than anything. So to develop other skills orally, producing sounds or productive skills like speaking, use songs, raps, chants, drama scenes, show and tell, have them dub a TV show, do choral reading, and share with their partners, as well as telling jokes. So these are just a few of the activities that you might consider. Most of these are not threatening activities, so they should be fun and easy for students to participate in. So here's an example of some questioning that you might use with each stage. So with a pre-production student, you may say, show me the red circle. Or In early production, is this the red circle or is this the red circle? Is this the blank one or this the blank one? Having them fill in the blank with one word. For speech emergence, you're wanting them to then reply more with the phrases, or at least more than one word answers, and then more open-ended type questions for intermediate fluency. But once again, we're not limiting ourselves to those, but that's at least an idea for you to get started. Your practice questions for the competency 4 are questions 4, 6, 32, and 38. Make sure that you answer the questions and then turn to the rationale or use the rationale for any clarifications you need. Thank you.